All right, guys. Copper Cutlass. We got, I'd say we got about 50% done on the frame job. We ran into a couple of issues again. Something I really didn't want to happen so soon, but it is a thing that happens. So, as you can see, we got some decent stitch welds here. We are going to fully weld it, but we did it in stitches because, we have a smaller welder, so this is a way to do it. And, pretty nice welds. My buddy did a nice job. You can see on the inside there, everything's pretty clean. We ran into more of an issue here where the metal was thinner to bridge the gap here. This really got, he burned through here. He went for it and did a full bead where I had suggested doing a series of tack welds just so at least we had some base material to grind down. So what we decided to end up doing here, because this area looks really bad. I mean, it's welded, it's sturdy, but it doesn't look very pleasing. And again, we're not looking for, we're not trying to win any, welds look pretty damn good. But we're not trying to win Welder of the Year award here. We're looking for strictly a structure thing. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to end up grinding this all back. And I'm going to cut this a little bit, and then I'm going to put some flat plate over it, and we're going to weld it, and then we're going to plate the outside. We're just going to run a strip here and weld the perimeter, and that should sturdy up this area. And I mean, we've already stiffened up the frame quite a bit with a little bit of welding that we did. And like I said, I say about 50% done because, we really don't have much to fill in between all the other stitches. So we got, on this side, we got a couple welds that we're going to have to go back and clean up a little bit just because this side was more problematic than that side. And I did mention maybe we were going to record while we worked, but you know what? This situation, I really wanted to hit it. We got a late start. He had some running around to do that kind of snowballed on him, and we didn't really get started until way later in the day. So we're going to end up wrapping this up next weekend. Tomorrow, which will be Sunday, I will end up welding the little spots on the frame. I'm going to take care of these and the ones in the back and on the body. I'm going to take care of all that just to get something knocked off of my list. And again, that was something else that came up that we weren't planning for. I wasn't planning on plating the top of the frame. I thought it would have been better, but clearly it was stretched and weakened when this split. So, we added some work. But next week, we're going to be able to weld this up. And we actually should work a lot faster next week because part of the problem was as we were working, we were clamping the metal and moving around because this frame isn't exactly straight across. So we were constantly repositioning our clamps to make sure that we got the absolute tightest fit we could. And I think we did a pretty good job of it. And you can see some of the waves. That literally is following the contour of the frame. This frame wasn't perfectly straight. And I mean, we're welding on steel that is old and it's got pits and it's been, we're working with ideal perfect surfaces. I think for what we, are doing, we're getting a pretty decent quality. I think as it is, what we did has already strengthened the car quite a bit. I mean, this is like, now it's like, you can feel it's like super sturdy now. Whereas before you did this, you can literally see the frame shifting. It was that weak. This frame is pretty weak all around. I think late 70s GM was either trying to lighten up the cars for miles per gallon and whatnot, fuel economy. And this frame all together in a whole is just, this frame isn't very pitted or heavily pitted, but good God, is it flimsy. In the back, we're going to end up making a strut bar across the frame rails because I can literally move those rails in and out by hand. So tomorrow, I'm going to hit those areas that I was doing, and I think since that's a smaller job, I will try to record that. But for today, what we got done, I'm pretty happy with, considering we weren't out here very long. My buddy he's got stuff he had going on. He planned on getting out here much earlier, But, you know, that's life. Things happen, and it is what it is. So he did leave his welder here, but I am buying a welder next weekend, I think. So, yeah, that's what we did. That's what we got done today, and I'll follow it up tomorrow, and I'll clip this video in. So you guys will get kind of both days of what we did. See ya. All right, guys, it's day 2 of work. I mentioned in the other video that I had to clean up the one plate because this area was really thin right at the opening where you could see it's got old heat marks and it was folded, and it's got a lot going for it here. So what we're going to do is I ground this down where it didn't look the prettiest. You know, our beads here look pretty good. You know, obviously this looks like a gap, but it's actually, it's just the plate comes up a little bit, and we can fill that like root gap there with our weld material as we burn it in, and it becomes almost flush. So I'm going to end up putting a plate here in this area. I still got to grind it down a little bit more. Plate here, welding it down. And I'm going to probably cut out this little section here, just this little buckle, and we're going to weld the plate here, and then we're going to weld the plate down. And that's about the extent of what we're going to do on both sides. But I mentioned that already, so I'm not going to talk about that too much. I welded the other area I showed you guys. I know these welds don't look the greatest, but they are more than strong enough. I mentioned in the one video where I did the drive shaft safety loop and stuff on the Cutlass that it's like no matter how much I tried cleaning that metal, whatever was in the backside of those braces, whatever little porosity there was in the metal, just created less than pleasing to the eye welds, but it's more than strong enough. All of this was done in a series of tack welds because I didn't want to burn through this brace. This brace is like 14 or 16 gauge. It's not the greatest, and it's already kind of pitted and thin. Just one of the obstacles that I have to work with, and you know, so I cleaned it up a little bit. And then you guys can see on this side where I welded the washer, this came out really nice. And this area was thin, and I found some machine bushings at the local hardware store that worked out really good. Same diameter as the bushing, and just small enough to catch it on the frame, and it welded in really good. You know, this side turned out pretty good. You know, did that. So, and then this side, I also did this one. Again, you could see the welds aren't bad, just not, you know, what I would call artisanal welds, but they work. And I'm just going to clean them up a little bit more, and they're, you know, this is going to get coated. Again, obstacles. I absolutely want to show you guys my best work, but this is reality, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think you guys have seen some of my work in the other videos where my welds are usually okay, they're good. I wouldn't call them the best. I'm not a welder day in and day out. I'm a body man. I do a lot of welding, but not like this kind of welding like what we're doing here. But this is turning out nice. I'm really happy with it. And we're, you know, I don't think I showed you guys the inside of the frame where my buddy had been welding. I don't know if I could even get it because it's kind of dark, but you can see the welds in there are really nice. He's doing a really nice job with that, and I'm going to let him take care of all this because you know what, man? I like working with my buddy. I've known him since 2nd grade, and anytime I can include him in my projects, I like to, because it's a good way for us to get together and work, and I'm sure you guys know how that goes. The older you get, the less you used to see your friends, and you know, if I can get him for a weekend here and there to work with me, I will definitely do it and offer it to him if he can. Plus, that's his welder. I had it for a while, and I was able to use it for a lot of little things here and there, and I told him, hey man, bring your welder by. You know, I can't afford a welder quite at the moment, and but he definitely came out and helped me, and I'm so appreciative of that because one of my really good friends, and 2, it's a little less money that we got to spend at the moment. So guys, I'm gonna let you go. We'll go on and do the other video after this. All right, guys, I got done with the last couple pieces on the body side. This side was easier in some ways and harder in some, but the welds came out better. You could see, like, I had a, you know, like I said, I did a series of tack welds, and then like over here I started to like burn through, so you could see I kind of had to fill it in. And then down here wasn't too bad. You know, it's just, it really sucked trying to get the coatings like completely off. I thought I had gotten all of them off, but I didn't, and I had to clean it up a little bit more. But this side was a little easier than the other side. I didn't clean up this side just to show you guys, you know. And so yeah, we got that done, and then I'm gonna move on to making my bushing washers, which I'm gonna show you guys what I'm gonna be doing. But for now, it's been snowing pretty good this whole morning. You can see outside, and the Oldsmobile's actually sitting out in the snow. So you can see I want to get it in before it gets completely caked in snow and my garage becomes a pool of water, because it's got about an inch of snow sitting on top of it. I got some black pipes, some washers. I bought a tube cutter this morning. I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to do in the next video, but for now I got to clean up, organize a little bit before we get to this kind of a little bench job. But I pretty much got what I wanted to get done today, and we'll hit it up with the next project. Alright guys, so this is the last video of the weekend, which really is like the only video because I'm going to bring them all together, so it doesn't matter. But I told you guys I was going to do something for the bushings. Now the typical GM bushing looks like this. It's very standard, right? I got this down here. So you got this washer that goes underneath the frame in the thin area, and it just sandwiches together. My only gripe with that is that this is all rubber. You don't really get a positive, clamping force with this style. So what I'm doing is almost like a semi-solid bushing, because really I want to keep the rubber between the body and the frame, but underneath I want it to be clamped in. This frame is already kind of flimsy as it is, and when my wife and I were moving the body around, and I had it up on jack stands, I could move the frame around. It would separate a little bit from the body. Not a lot, but just enough to be like one of those what the fuck moments. So here's what I did. Now this is a little exaggerated, but I bought some black pipes, something I could weld to. I gotta clean it up. Now they're not gonna be this long. They will be this long, the one in the middle, because now that we boxed it, I can't reach in there and put the washers in. So I actually have to weld this into that top plate that we're going to make that I mentioned earlier, because we couldn't weld there, which actually worked out to be a really good idea. So essentially what's going to happen is right now I'm going to ask my wife to back up a little bit. Back up, babe. Hi, guys. So we got these guys. She's shaking her head because I'm like moving all over the place. So we got these guys, right? And the idea is to weld it to this plate. And this is going to drop. So these long ones are going to be for the center, and I'm going to get rid of the threads. This is the only area I really want. And it's going to be welded to this, and then there's going to be a washer welded onto the bottom. And then that way, when we tighten it, it's actually going to lock in the bushing positively underneath the frame, versus having that mushy washer that is the GM design, and that's just the way it is. So in short, you know, let's imagine that you're going to have your frame between these two, and then you're going to sandwich your frame between the bushing and this cup, pretty much a cupped washer that I'm making, and it's going to lock down the frame a lot sturdier, but we're going to have like a semi-solid bushing, what I would like to call it, because even though this is rubber, the bottom washers on these are also rubber, and they allow a lot of flex and a lot of movement. This way, even though we have the rubber, we're going to lose some of that softness to it, but not completely have a super rigid surface. So again, like a it's pretty much the same theory as having a limiter strap on your block versus a complete solid motor mount. So this is kind of the idea, and this is what I'm going to end up doing. So I pretty much have to make 10 of them. I think excluding these two. So altogether we have 12. I got a piece of pipe, and god damn it, I bought that cutter I mentioned earlier. It just takes way too fucking long. So I'm going to end up cutting them with the Sawzall, probably at work, and then I'm probably going to end up grinding them, and I'll end up leveling them when I weld the washer, because even though it might not be straight, like the cut with the Sawzall, they're never perfectly square. I'll grind it and I'll make it square, and either way, the washer will have some flex, so we're going to have a good surface to bite onto. So guys, that's pretty much the workload for the weekend. I showed you guys the one plate I made for the top for this area we burned through in. It's going to go here. I still have to grind this back a little bit, and this has to get ground down a little bit, but essentially that's what that's going to be there. And then we're going to plate it here to here, and I think that's going to be super solid there. So that's, I actually, you know, yesterday I was a little bummed out. We didn't get as much done as I thought we were going to get, but that's fine. You know, I still got, I mean, this is only week 6, guys. Keep that in mind. We're moving here, I guess at full tilt pretty much. Like, even though, you know, I only come out here Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and we're crushing this thing, and hopefully end of the month the body will be back on. I still plan on making the control arms, but when I was talking with my buddy, we were bouncing around some ideas, and there's a couple of things that we might actually together want to get everything for that. And as far as like buying the parts, because him and I have like conflicting ideas, but he's one of the few people that I actually really highly value his input. So he had some good ideas, and he's got some material at the house. So I'm probably going to go over there. We're going to order up all the stuff. And I know I had said I was going to buy some parts this weekend and let you guys know. We pretty much ran out of our week play money. I ended up buying a welding tank to have a spare, as I plan on buying a welder maybe next week. I mentioned to you guys that I'm using my buddy's welder. He was here yesterday welding. And then, so I bought a tank, I bought some consumables, I bought a bunch of stuff. Next thing you know, our parts money went on that. But we're all right. I mean, we're ahead of it and we're fine. So I'm going to let you guys go. Hit the like button, subscribe, follow us on Facebook at Copper's Garage. I took a couple pictures of everything. I usually put up a post. And on Instagram, Copper Cutlass. It gets random pictures from stuff from work and here and a little bit of everything. So guys, thank you for following. See you.